Hey, it's Andy Yanes, and I'm sitting here with Ryan Monsu. Who, I got it. I got your last name correctly. No, I didn't. And I
No, you
butchered it.
came close. You
Monsu.
came closer.
Monsu.
Monso.
Monso.
So, Monso.
Monso.
That's it. And you're keeping that in,
Monso.
by the way. That needs to stay.
Hey, we will. We'll keep it. Monso.
Okay, good. Yeah.
There we go. We got it. We
All
learned
right. We're
something
good.
new. But this time, obviously, Ryan, you're joining me. You're the publisher of GoCougs.com, correct?
Yes,
And when
sir.
it comes to HOU NIL, that is the main topic. That is why you are joining me on this specific segment and for the next few weeks in the coming segments, focusing on name, image, and likeness. And this time, we are going to focus on HOU NIL. So really, I mean, from the start, let's just start with GoCougs.com because I know they're not
Okay.
directly involved. Well,
Right.
there's a partnership with HOU but they're separate. But I'm just
Correct.
curious. First of all, when did GoCougs, and this is just in general, I'm curious, when did GoCougs launch and how did that, if I'm sure it did, how did that help you with the idea of HOU NIL?
So I've been writing around U of H in some way or another for 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd always wanted to try to see if a content site could compete with all the message board sites, the rivals and the 24/7 and the Scout and all the others, Coug fans. And in February of 2018, I stumbled on the URL gocougs.com and it was available. And it had never been available in the past. I was like, well, crap, I should buy that. And so I did, and I played with it for 6 months or so. And finally, that fall, decided to go all in on it. I have a couple other businesses on the side, and I have the time to devote to this to make it its own sort of media creation. We're not
Mm-hmm.
exactly journalism as in the Houston Chronicle or what you do at Gallery Sports, but we're not exactly just fan stuff either. We try to be down the middle. Obviously, there's a slant, but to give people just a different sort of writing than they get other places. We also focus on the history of U of H, both the school and the athletics department. And you don't really get that anywhere else. So we've been doing this for 5 football seasons. This is our 5th. And it turned into a subscription website with a message board, a forum. And it has grown and grown. And I believe we're the biggest around today in terms of U of H. When NIL first came onto our radar, we knew we wanted to do something with it, and we knew we could do something content-wise. We just weren't sure how it was going to work. And I kicked the idea around with subscribers and people I know at U of H, regents, just trying to figure out where could we fit in and how would it work? Because my goal was never to be like a middleman brokering deals between businesses and players. It was always to do content. And content was the thing that I thought we could do well and that really hadn't been done anywhere else. And we looked around the country for something that we could kind of base this on. And TexAgs does something similar. But what we're looking to do is writing, video, audio, and then pairing U of H athletes with sponsors and turning that into content too. So finally, at the beginning of the summer, we decided we were ready to go. We got some pretty good, significant support from people inside athletics saying, yes, let's go, do this, make this happen. And with the help of Brad Towns, who played baseball at U of H, he's very, very, very well known for walking 9 batters in 3 innings at LSU. He and I kind of put this idea together, and we teamed up with another guy who is not a U of H person, who helped us with sort of the dynamics that we didn't understand. And we have built a subscription base now. We're right around 100 subscribers and right around a month. And we are starting to build sponsorships. It's starting to take off and be a big deal. We have great content already recorded. We have essays coming out in the next week, ramping up to basketball season. And it's really fascinating. We're hoping to work with every single U of H athlete that wants to work with us, that wants to do content, that wants to get their story out there in their own words. And that's kind of my main thing, is I want to tell their stories, but not the story they're telling in a press conference, or maybe even what they're doing in like any sort of long form story or interview. I want to go deeper than that. And this format allows us to do that. And it also allows us to compensate the athlete for it.
Kind of to take a step back, just when it comes to that subscription model, I'm curious, how did you guys, obviously you guys have a following now, but how did it go about building that up? Because I'm talking from experience, it is hard to get anyone to follow anything when it comes to subscription, much less when you have to do a monthly commitment when it comes to payments.
Yeah, so we have no problem getting people to follow us on social media. We don't have any problem getting people to retweet our content. But getting people to pay for it was a whole different thing. And this is the part that I wanted to prove that U of H could do, like U of H fans could do, is that would they pay for content? And we found a group of people who were interested in that. They obviously like the other components of it, the camaraderie, the forum, the message board aspect. But because our content is so different than yours, for instance, people gravitate towards that, people that have different sorts of minds or whatever. But it's not easy. And having learned this over 4 or 5 years, credit card numbers change a lot faster than I realized. And so you're dealing with that nonstop. And that part of it, that business side of running a subscription site is not fun. But there are a lot of great parts of it, and I've met a lot of cool people.
And what about the sponsorship portion of it? You mentioned it, being able to get companies and just sponsors in general to buy into what you're doing, to support the University of Houston athletics and also the athletes.
Yeah, so our sponsors are sponsoring our content and athletes only. If they sponsor something U of H focused, they would do that through the school. Our focus is only the athletes and helping them in their name, image, and likeness. So we have had sponsors of our website in the past, gocougs.com. This is completely separate. We've built a wall between GoCougs and the NIL component. And that's just dealing with athletes. You deal with them one way on GoCougs, which is this is media. We have to follow the rules everybody else has to follow. But then this other component, where I'm spending time with these guys, helping them create content and generating ideas and doing things, that part is way different and it's fun. But stepping back, the sponsors that we have for the NIL component are really kind of off the wall. They're companies I would have never thought about. We have a company called Sparkle Glass Cleaner, who is starting to do some things with us. They're going to be a big premium primary sponsor for us this year. We're finalizing contracts with a couple of other major sponsors. We have some smaller sponsors, and I can't wait to get their stuff out there. A sprinkle company, like for the cupcake, but not the actual cupcake, just the sprinkles. Wow. I just went nuts and bought a whole bunch of sprinkles because why not? And me and my niece had a blast sprinkling cupcakes. So who knew that was a company, but it is, and they are doing a great job. But yeah, the sponsorship component, again, was one of those things that I never contemplated. I never thought that was going to be something we did. I thought this was just going to be subscribers. And as people have brought ideas or we've kind of just brainstormed. We realized there's a huge market out there that none of us, from Mike Pittman and the Hoops and Holler to Landon and Austin Elrod with Lincoln Cougs, to us, to whoever else is out there, we're not tapping into all that's there. We want to tap into more subscribers, more fans, more everyday people who can just afford a little bit to go towards athletes. Our strategy is not to focus on sponsors, but we are open to it, and we're going to find fun ways to match content, Cougar athlete, and sponsors.
Yeah, and that's a perfect thing that I'm gonna circle back to in regards to how all the different Houston NIL, when it comes to Houston Cougars, you guys all kind of have your own little segments, and maybe not segment, but the own different ways how you guys are approaching name, image, and likeness, which is pretty cool. And I'll circle back, but I want to transition over to the actual idea behind HOU NIL specifically. So, like you mentioned, it's different with you guys because you guys are working directly with the athletes to help produce, like you said, content that is different from you might find from the traditional media perspective. Like you mentioned, the examples with the Chronicle, and even what we do, like we're covering much more of the game to game, week to week, and kind of the in season stories as the in-game season goes on. But the one that really stood out to me is the one you guys had an article, and this was the one you guys kind of did like your sample, the free version of D'Anthony Jones, and I believe it was after the Kansas game.
Yeah,
you can correct me if I'm wrong, where he had kind of his perspective of what had been going on, because they had just suffered that Kansas game was a tough loss, but they were coming off the heels of a tough overtime loss to Texas Tech, and it was unique because you never get to see that from the players' perspective, what they were feeling, what they struggled with on the field, and that's something that you're not going to find anywhere else, especially not from a player's perspective.
Yeah. We got super lucky with D'Anthony Jones. He and I had been messaging for over a year, just through Twitter, just talking about certain things, just so I could understand. And he's just forthright. He's open. He's honest. And when we met together to kind of come up with his content, our goal was not to do the story that we did. It was a whole different story, which will be coming. But we met right after the Kansas game, and he was like, I want to write about that. I'm like, okay, let's do that. And it turned out fantastic. And I thought it was the perfect way for us to introduce ourselves. D'Anthony has another story essay that's coming out soon. If he goes and has 4 sacks in this weekend's game, guess what? It'll be out Sunday. But Jamal Shed has written an essay, and I just read it for the first time yesterday, and it's blew me away, about how to play point guard for Kelvin Sampson. And it's fantastic. And just you learn so many things that goes on with the point guard and the head coach. There are funny stories that I hope can get in there. Maybe they won't. Some of them may be a little too dear, but we've just had great luck with great guys, great women that have helped us out, and their stories are great, and they're just good people. And Jamal and Jawan Roberts and Emmanuel Sharp, Reggie Cheney's coming up, D'Anthony, we're working with several other football players, women's basketball, women's golf. We've got a lot of irons in the fire, and I can't wait to be able to tell those stories.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about the process. You mentioned the essays. So when it comes to the athletes, do they just come to you and whoever might be overseeing with their ideas? Do you guys work together on different content? Is it a case-by-case basis? How does that content idea come about with the athletes and you guys?
We're still pretty new into the process. 100% want athletes to come to us. 100% want that. Love when people come to us with an idea of, hey, let's explore this. And then we brainstorm it together. We do video, we write it, we do our goofy 30-second timeout so that we can pay them for each of those pieces of content. the best part of this for me is that we get to work with these people, men and women, for a while. It's not just like a 15-minute, 30-minute thing. So it's an ongoing process. And for each piece of content, we get to pay them. And thankfully, we have the subscribers and the sponsors that allow us to do that. But I will go to athletes through Twitter, through Instagram, through the ones that I have other contact methods for. And then some will come to me. And then guys are starting to tell others about how fun it was, how interesting the situation was, and that you get paid for it. And we have had just blessed luck to have Galen Robinson working with us so far. We're about to lose him to basketball season. He's playing overseas, but he's going to find a way to keep helping us and keep working with us, even though he's going to be 7 time zones away.